There I was, forgetting to add myself to the stage. Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to Monday and Aquarius Rising Africa with me, Chantel, your hostess with the mostess for sure. And we're back with Monday again, and of course through the eyes of Beverli Rhodes, and we're going to be talking about Eric von Doniken. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Who is hello Charmaine, who is the father of disclosure, I'm told. So I don't know much about him myself, and so yeah, we're going to run with that with Beverli this eve. But before so, let's just have a look at our delightful shows for the rest of the week. Let's just bring that up. And yeah. Okay, of course, tonight with Beverli Rhodes, Aquarius Rising Africa. Tomorrow will be part 12, which is the final of the series, the mini-series of the Ankara field on solutions. But there is a little bonus coming next week as well. So if you haven't caught that, please do. It really explains in a very simple way, simplistic way, childlike way. And when I say childlike, it's not childish, but it's really touching the parts of our soul that are innocent, that remember. Children represent innocence. So we go back to the memory of who we were before the fall, so to speak, before the dark nest. Dark nest is really what I refer to as what happened after the fall. So basically when we've gone hell, basically, and how do we vibrate ourselves out of there? It's all about resonance and vibration. So yeah, catch that. And of course, then tomorrow night, spiritual forensics with Beverli and myself again on solutions. And we are going to be looking at, gosh, I forget. Sons of Sam. That's what we're looking at tomorrow. And you all know that Bryce and I actually did a whole series on Sons of Sam, David Berkowitz. So that'll be interesting. We're going to be shining our spiritual eyes on what was happening there. Wednesday, of course, Double Trouble with JC. So join us for that. Thursday again, Solutions with Shanti, in the field with Shanti. Going to be talking about discernment during its times of misinformation. So again, when we're looking at what, the teachings of the Ankara field, how do we know truth? How do we get to feel it? How do we understand it? The reason why there's so much crazy chaos in the world right now is because people are taking everyone else's word as gospel and believing what everyone else says, and then it doesn't come to be true, and then the disappointment, and. So when we understand how this stuff works, and we understand that your body is the barometer for truth and lies. So basically, I start showing you how to feel truth and lies in your body. How do you discern between what is true and what is not true? And then, yes, we have lovely YouTube membership with Jessie on on Thursday at 5 p.m. Question Q&A. So that's a YouTube members live. So join us for that. And then, of course, Friday, we have drop-in with Shanti. And that's whatever topical, so whatever pops up then. And then Saturday and Sunday, we have the replays and the rehab. So, yeah, join us for that. And, of course, there's always schedule changes popping up and what have you. So keep an eye on the schedule, and there will no doubt be one or two extra little guests and things like that. Anyway, without any further ado, hello everybody. So nice to see you all in the chat. Okay, well, I'm not going to speak about ancient aliens now. We're going to bring Beverli on. Hello, Beverli. How are you, honey?
Hello, lovely. How are you? It looks like you've got great hot weather there. That's fantastic.
Listen,
We're freezing over here. We've got issues with snow and it's cold. And of course, because it's snowing and freezing, the water's freezing. So there is a water shortage now in the UK because the pipes are frozen. So, yeah, we've got people giving out water bottles left, right, and center in the worst areas. Fun and games. Fun and games.
listen, you all should be coming to live here, okay?
Nice and warm. I know.
Weather is great, although we do have cold winters, but nothing like you
Like
guys
this.
experience. I have no idea how you people deal with that. You know, the times I was in Austria over skiing time, okay,
Mm.
where, my ears were sore. I mean, it was
Um,
just on another level cold, but amazing. I mean, it's beautiful, it's amazing, but I don't think I could live in that cold.
no,
But
it's
happy to
cold.
have.
It's friggin' cold. It's like, talking brass monkeys here. That's how bad it is. I know. But
Well,
what can we
I
do?
preferred, and as you know, yes, it is super warm here, and really summer is finally, and finally the holiday makers have effed off.
Ah,
Oh, I'm so happy. I don't think you understand. This weekend, the last of them toddled off. Oh my
no.
goodness. I have my little town back. I have my roads back. But I mean, when you actually live in a holiday town,
Mm.
it's unbelievable to observe the aftermath of a 6-week holiday frenzy. It's
Oh,
actually
God.
quite sad in many ways because, I mean, how do I say? I mean, obviously, everyone wants to go on a holiday, and when there's mass, that people celebrate and what have you. But there's actually not much consideration for what they leave behind. And I'm just going to put it very nicely like that. People come here and they absolutely let rip
Oh,
for the weeks and the time that they're here. They destroy things. They, I really don't give a rat's backside. And we live in a protected area.
mm.
So a lot of what goes on is not meant to happen, but it happens. But it's very interesting. Human beings, we're an interesting bunch. But anyway, I'm very happy that the holiday makers have effed
Yeah.
off back home.
You're free. Yay. You're free.
Anyway, welcome everybody. Now that we've had some chit chat and people have entered into the chats, and yeah, because it's nice to see you all. We're going to be talking about Eric von Doniken today. So, Beverli, let me
Mm.
just see what we have here in the media room. I think we have a few pictures of him, right?
Yeah, we do. Bless him.
Give me a minute. Yeah, there's 3 or 4. 3.
I think there should be 4 of him, and then
One. Okay, there's one that's over here that's not over there. Okay, there are 4, yeah. Perfect.
good. Glad we've got 4. Yay.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so enlighten us about who Eric von Doniken is and why are we talking about him today?
We're talking about him was unfortunately, he passed away over the weekend. And he was one of the most influential Swiss writers, a researcher, and he understood a lot about pseudoscience, but he also understood a lot about extraterrestrials and the footprint that they've left behind here on the earth with us. So from that point of view, he was like, when I was growing up, I asked to have a book, and one of the books that I did ask for was his very, very first book that he ever brought out, which was in 1968, and it was called Chariots of the Gods. Because I mean, he was never on TV; they never did anything. So I had that book, and I read through a lot of what he'd investigate. He was like a pseudo archaeologist, and he did lots of he did lots of reviews on different sacred ancient sites, which was amazing. And he did sort of he was on Ancient Aliens. He did a whole bunch of other stuff, and he declassified a lot of things. Extremely clever man, almost in a way self-taught. When he passed, they think he was worth more or less, when you look on that network, Celebrity Network, net worth, he was worth about 30 million. So I mean, he had done a lot of work, but he did take a lot of press bashing, because independently he would have a lot to say about things, but they took a strip off him. They took a strip off him, so he's passed away now. He was 90, and he just has one daughter, Cornelia, who's really lovely. I don't know what she's going to do with all of his work, his life work and stuff. I have a feeling that there will be a lot more that they will uncover, stuff that he's always, I mean, even myself, I know I've got 3 other books that I've written that are sitting in my computer with all the research, etc. So I can imagine he would have done the same thing. So, it's lovely to honor the one that came first. And Erich von Doniken, he definitely was one of the first ones to open his mouth and be quite vocal, actually, about the star community, about us. Where did we come from? How did we come from? How did we end up here? He had a lot to say, and he really was a path blazer. He just used to go out and used to say whatever he wanted to say, which is quite amazing. But it's one of those that you couldn't help liking him, because he was a very, very nice, personable person, but also he used to send that information across in the screen and just say, think about this, think about that. He was very different. He was very sweet in his nature, and he never pushed things too hard if he didn't know about what he was doing. And he could speak in a number of languages. Obviously, he spoke German as well, Swiss German, and he was just amazing, because he was also, a lot of people don't realize, and I only found this about four years ago or something, that he was the co-founder of the AASRA, which is the Archaeology, Astronautics and SETI Research Association. Who knew that he was part of that? And I had been to Interlaken in Switzerland, and he designed like a big mystery park, theme park. So he's done a number of very sort of like unusual things, if you like. He's got a lot that's part and parcel of him. But, early culture, he was very expert in being able to look at, paleo contacts. What was the hypothesis with the ancient astronauts? He had lots of ideas. Unfortunately, a lot of the ideas, main academics and sort of scientists, they kind of looked at him as, well, this is not going to be anything that we're going to take too seriously. But I think as time went on, and where people were doing amazing things and coming up with different types of pictures from the stars or from planets and things like that, suddenly that level of contact that he was talking about is not that far-fetched, actually. So, he's been at the rock face doing lots and lots of things, trying to make a difference. And, he also did things like he was the co-founder of the AASRA. So that's the Archaeology, Astronautics and the SETI Research Station. So, there's a lot that people don't know about Erich, but he has definitely got a lot behind him. He used to be a devout Roman Catholic, and he sort of, he then decided to investigate off-world and to see whether or not we as human beings could have originated from the stars. And he then changed his ideas a lot, and he started looking at, were our ancestors as human beings here? Were our ancestors visited by extraterrestrials? Did we have a visitation from space? And he did a lot of work to try to investigate wherever he could. But it was difficult for him because if you think about it, it was in the late 60s, early 70s. He was saying things that were really out there. They were like, whoa, look at what you're saying. So he had to find ways of making ends meet. He went and became a hotel manager, but then funny thing was, when he was the hotel manager in Switzerland, in Davos, he ended up writing Chariots of the Gods, which was his next book. And it was, fantastic because it was one of those that was groundbreaking. But unfortunately for him, when he sent it out as a draft, no one was actually even half willing to publish the book. And, he had to rework the whole thing. And he changed his name to Wilhelm Rogerstroft. And then eventually it ended up being published, but under a pseudonym. So he'd had his whole fair share of troubles. He really did. So this is just a little bit of a view on what he looked like and how he was making a change. What I found very interesting when I started looking into him more is that even though he was a worldwide bestseller with all of his books, he was only ever paid, and I think this is scandalous, he was only ever paid 7% of the book's turnover. So he was doing all the work, but he only got 7%. So it was very low. It's
so who took? I mean, that's normal on Amazon, actually. I mean, anyone who's an author on Amazon, you get a little piece of what the person pays for the book. Really, it's ridiculous, actually. So, but who is? It's interesting because unfortunately I don't know this guy and I haven't had time to research him. But I'm seeing someone here, Reefer 17, doesn't seem to be too impressed with him, referring to him as a Freemason, saying Freemasons will not let you publish since 68 when you're not conforming, I'm assuming you're saying, to their bull. So are you suggesting that he was a Freemason, which is why he was able to write the book or do whatever? I don't know. So I know there are people, a lot of the controlled opposition, the slick talkers, as I call them. Yeah. And again, discernment is required here because there are those who speak and they have got all the titles, doctor, reverend, asshole, whatever you want to call yourself, behind their name. So they've all got all the titles and what have you. They've written the books. They've got the wife or the husband, looking after things. So you got to know there's a lot of that in the world of disclosure as well. Mm-hmm. So what Reefer is saying is that they, obviously from what I can make out, suggesting that von Doniken was a Freemason, so was therefore then being handled basically, because if that I would assume is your accusation, is that he was a Freemason, so would have been handled, so would have been given the information to put out there on behalf, because he would have then been controlled opposition or a gatekeeper. There's a lot of them out there, that's for sure, at the moment. But I'm not sure, if that's what's being suggested here.
I think there will be, especially with him now deceased, I think there's going to be a lot of different types of investigations and evidence and discussions. I mean, they'll have their whole knees up about what he was writing about, because he wrote about things like the ancient pyramids, even our Stonehenge here in the UK, the Moai of Easter Island. And he was also, because he was so well known, if people found an artifact, they would either send a picture of it, or in some cases, they would send the artifact to him and say, what on earth is this that I found? So, he he does look at things very differently. I don't know whether he was a Freemason. I don't really know much about his personal life. I just know he has one daughter, that's it. And he had to do some dodgy things when he was younger just to make ends meet. And he was also people like Carl Sagan was very friendly with him, and they used to talk about paleo contact and extraterrestrial visitations, and he did a lot about intelligent life in the universe. And I think that he did some speculation, which, because if you think about it, the first book I got, his Chariots of the Gods, it was the very, very first book that I read of his. And it was just always asking the question, could they have been space gods? Might have they come from intelligence universe somewhere else? And he just carried on. He had 1,001 questions. He just used to ask and ask and ask a lot. And he did eventually, I think he did, with Carl Sagan, I think he did write some sort of thesis, and look at what is the object of us being here on Earth. If we were engineered and that was the principle of the thesis, then why, and what was the logic? Because there was a lot that they were going into and trying to understand. And he was the first person that I saw pictures of the Iron Pillar in Delhi in India. And that apparently was erected in 402 AD. So he quotes that as that particular pillar, and it never rusts. It's an iron pillar, never rusts. So he says, we can say that it's unknown origins, because even though that pillar was established to be 402 AD, what type of origins was that pillar? What was the construction method? And how is it possible that it doesn't rust? It just stays absolutely perfect. I think that he also said, because he started looking at things around the world, and at some point he did also go back on things and say, well, I'm not sure whether these things are actually can be attributed to off-world individuals like extraterrestrials. But he had a way of looking at things that were very different, and he was very blessed in as much as he was able to go to all these amazing sites. And a lot of his discussions online was talking softly and it's always good to have a laugh too. He always used to, you could say something. If he found it funny, he'd just burst out laughing. And, he would say there's a lot of library material. There's a lot of evidence out there of ancient extraterrestrials and them visiting us here on the Earth plane. But, he was really hammered by a lot of his critics. And, he took lots of photos right through the 70s. He was taking, I've followed him like, I must have followed him since I was about 9 or 10, because he had a lot of very sane theories and ideas. And he also collected artifacts. He went into various tunnels and he found all sorts of things. He found things that were like incredible. And he looked at those to see whether during his adventures, where those tunnels would lead, what was under the ground, were there any gold artifacts? And, he also consulted with archaeologists. He tried really, really different ways in which to be able to bring education about our origins, our human origins. And I think he has been on some of the mainstream TV programs, and that he's done a lot of work, and he's featured pretty much all over the place. So, the Nazca Lines, I think, was his best work, because he basically wrote a book called Arrival of the Gods in 1998. And that was where he saw the Nazca Lines, those huge, huge designs from the air. And he just said, no, this is definitely looking at like Martian canals and things like that. He's definitely very out there, great sense of humor. And he pushed and he pushed and he pushed. So in a way, he's like the father of the disclosure programs, because he started looking at things differently, and he just used to ask question after question after question, and he just never thought that anyone would come up with the answers to the questions. And that was good, because as long as we keep asking the question, there are those out there that will go and try and find the answers.
Absolutely. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but your face is frozen for the last, since we started. I can hear you perfectly well.
That's
but
weird.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it's
On
fine.
my
I don't know
side,
if anyone else has.
my side it
Now you're
is.
moving.
My side it's
Now
fine.
you're moving. Now you're
That's
moving.
weird. Very weird.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Yeah, now you're moving. Interesting, because what it sounded like you were saying, he was, with the steel piping and stuff, obviously he was looking at Tartaria, because,
Yeah.
and especially, you were talking about our origins. It sounds very much like he was down the Tartaria pathway. And having spoken to Guy Anderson last week, interviewed with him, who speaks a lot about the clone babies, the Cabbage Patch Kids, and gives a lot of information and understanding on that, and how these are clone babies, and they were Caucasian babies, right? The world was repopulated with Caucasian babies, not Indian babies, not African American babies, whatever, not any Caucasian babies. They wanted the world to be repopulated with this. It's very, very interesting. So it would seem that he's also looking down the Tartaria rabbit hole kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's a game that he was playing. Obviously, every soul has a soul plan, and every soul just has got certain aspects that you decided to work on in this lifetime. So he did have a path, let's say. He had his own soul path that he had to follow. It wasn't a very easy one. It was very, very hard. I mean, people used to lambaste him in the press. They used to say all sorts of things about him. There was a couple of very big failed business developments that he did, where I think it was just too soon for him to do the types of things he was doing. And he was very adventurous with all sorts of stuff. So, he was used to getting himself into a lot of trouble. And I think he makes no bones about it. He knew that disclosure was part of his path. He knew that he had to go and dig up all sorts of things and go with archaeologists and go here, go there, and look at stuff differently. And, of course, ask his 1,000,001 questions, because that's what he used to do. He asked hundreds and hundreds of questions. But, obviously, he was taking pictures of various sites. He was taking pictures of sacred sites. He took sort of measuring equipment with him. He had different types of meters that he used to plug into the ground to see what was their electromagnetic field. He did a lot of sort of the new sort of like fringe science and unusual stuff that most individuals would rather play it safe, not reveal what they've discovered at all. Just keep it in some box somewhere, all your writings, and just not say anything. He was totally different to that. He used to just go out there and say, well, I'm going here or I'm going there. This is where I'm going next. And I'm going to go and look at, Pumapunku. I'm going to look at these pyramids, and this is what I see. This looks different. He just was totally different. He definitely was a wild card. In some cases, he can be reviewed as a loose cannon. I think so, for sure. But what he did is he made all of us think, what if? And that's all we needed. Is you just need that little tiny kernel, that little tiny energy field within your soul to sort of say, well, what if this is a matrix? What if our ancestors were from the stars? What if? That's all he asks, is just go with the what if. And I think most people have gone with the what if now. What do you think, Shanti?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think people are questioning a lot of things, and they are finding answers in strange places, in places they didn't expect to find answers. And some, for some of us, we can handle it, others can't.
True.
But hey, I mean, the Matrix is real. We're in it.
We're in it. Oh, yeah, don't we just know it? And I mean, he passed when he was 90 years old. So, I mean, he had really good innings. And if you look at all the stuff that he was doing, he definitely was a person that was a trailblazer, no matter what he was within himself. And I think he did some naughty things in his life. And unfortunately, the big theme park that he had put up, he didn't get many visitors. And it kind of initially bombed, and then he had to change his ideas and he had to go back to work. So he had to go back to work in a hotel. But the good thing was, because he was working in a hotel, he had time to write. He had time to write, I think, about 2 or 3 more books, which is great. And then when people started realizing and connecting and started waking up, they kind of thought, who is this Eric dude? What is he doing? This looks interesting. And then suddenly he started, I think it was his 2nd or 3rd book, it started really taking off. And he became a bestseller because people were questioning their origins, and people still question their origins. So amongst the community of, star people, UFOs, ancient aliens, and all that sort of thing, he's kind of like the grandfather of understanding what it was and who came from the stars and how. He never got a full handle on it. I don't think, in my view, I don't think anyone is going to have a total 100% view of what's happening. I don't think so. And he was the same, he was like just questioning every day of his life. He just have a barrage of questions. Wow, there we go. So yeah, this is just my way of saying, he influenced my reading patterns. He influenced, what I was looking at, because, it was a book that was very difficult to get hold of when I was in South Africa. And it wasn't, when it arrived, it was like, I got the hard copy, which was brilliant. And I'd waited for months, because in those days, the post used to take months to get to South Africa. It was, I don't know, did they fly it by a dragon or something, because it took such a long time. And it was like,
no, it was on a ship. Odysseus. Cargo. Yeah, our letters were all sent via sea mail.
Not by donkey across the world through Egypt and everywhere else, but that's
once it got to that one, wherever it was, then it was donkey mail to wherever else it had to go. Yeah, so it was sea mail and donkey mail and snail mail, and eventually post office mail.
Post office, yeah. I remember it was like you used to dread it, and you used to see all these amazing things in different countries, and I used to look at it myself and I used to say, oh, wow, look at this. If I no, there's like no way of getting the payment to these poor people. Or if you sent in those days, if you even sent an email, because I worked on one of the first, with the computer sciences group, one of the first sort of super portals that we were working on. I worked on that and was trying to give them ideas of, what we could sell. And I will never forget the guy that I worked with. He was the project leader. And he said, I don't think that this internet www World Wide Web is ever going to catch up. It's too complicated for the general run of the mill. Ha! Look who's laughing now.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, it was fun. So I think in his way, Eric was a trailblazer. He definitely wasn't a yes man. If he didn't like something you were saying, he'd speak out and say it. And even if you were like attending one of his talks, or later on in his later years, he was able to do talks online. And if you posted a question in the chat that he quite liked, he would say, right, I'm going to answer that one's question. And then he would do it. He was very feisty, and I would imagine that he was feisty, right up until this last weekend. And I think somebody will need to follow on in his footsteps, but I don't know who it's going to be.
Okay, let's have a look at some pictures. Which one? Yep. Which one first? Okay, I've got that one.
So this one here is the part and parcel of the energy transference. You can see behind him, he's got his own personal Merkaba. That is the energy field that we all have. We have an enclosed Merkaba, personalized energy that allows you to maintain yourself in the 3D, and it's extremely positive. So you've got that. He's getting ready to transition, and you'll have a look at all of the chakra points already. His soul and his energetics. So you see there's a big blue ring around where his chest area is. That's he's starting to transition. So he's going to push all of the light, all of the last energies that he has. He's going to push that out in that beautiful pinky rose gold color coming out the top of his head. And that's him starting to transition. Also, you have the golden areas that turn into the pinky colors. So he did have a lot of love for both humanity as well as others to make sure that he was connected. In the back, we see his ancestors. We see individuals that were ready to take him on his last final journey, to move him out of his body and very carefully take them all surrounding him and move him out of his body for the one last time. So, it does show that, the fact that he questioned and questioned and questioned and questioned, he was in a way, I think he was questioning on behalf of all of us. So that's what that drawing does. What do you think of it, Shanti?
Yeah, he's definitely got a lot of charisma, this guy.
Yeah.
He's coming with a lot of charisma and magnetism.
Mm.
Yeah, a lot of information.
Yes, he did. He did.
He's a good portal for information, or source of information. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And he did. And sometimes he would say things like, I don't know where this came from, but I'm going to say it. And then he would just say it, He was just, I don't think he had much of a filter. He was just, whatever, if something made sense to him and it was energized and he felt that made sense, then he would go ahead and he would say it.
Right. Cool. Next one is this one.
This is the other one. So this one here is quite an interesting one because this is the first one that I did when I was tuning into him. And it shows the pulling of the energy from all the universal quadrants, and pulling that energy in a liquid form, and then pulling that up through his body all the way up from the bottom, and then making sure that he was connected to the celestial dimensions so that he could transition across. The one thing he did know is he did have a strong faith, but he also knew that a lot about energetics and energy's frequencies. And what he did is he made sure that when he realized, and I think he did realize the being that he was, I think he realized that he was getting ready to transition, and he started making things ready so that he could have an easy transition. And this is a picture of what I've seen with him getting himself ready to go across and to be in a different dimension.
Yeah. It's a nice, he's got a nice energy about him for sure. He really does. He's a smart man, and he kind of moves between dimensions, this guy. He himself, I would say, is a dimension. I don't know what you call those people.
Yeah, this is it. I think he did fall into some strange folks at some point, but he did have that very strong nature, that questioning nature, and I think that's something that's made sure that he was able to question and ask, because he managed
Absolutely.
to get access to all sorts of people.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see anything nefarious from what I'm seeing there at all. I'm not saying that he. I mean, if you say he was a naughty boy, what do you mean by that?
I think he had very little respect for money. He had very little respect for, if you had something specific that you were talking about and it was unique to you, if he felt that that resonated with him, he would talk about it. And I think this is part of the disclosure community. A lot of individuals did get a bit annoyed with him because he would have these chats and these sort of opinion sessions, and he would meet loads and loads and loads of people. But when he was on a go, when he was on one of these big waves where the wave and the energy just gets going for him, he would pull in all sorts of information from all over the place. And if that information was something that was unique to a particular person, I'd never seen him say, "Oh, this." I was talking to Mr. Joe Bloggs, and Mr. Joe Bloggs has said this is his theory. Da, 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 da. He would never just say that. He would just blurt out the theories, blurt out the ideas, because I think he was one of those that could do many multiple tasks, but also that he would just assume that everybody's on the same page, and maybe not everybody was. So if you also have a look in the middle section, you can see that there is a large golden light where his energy starts moving from the solar plexus up and out. And it started, I'm not sure exactly when he started to transition, but I kept getting age 89. He moved to the other dimensions age 90 this weekend. I think it was it was either the 10th or the 11th. I think it was announced on the 11th, but I think it was the 10th. So that would have given him, 01 January 10th, 10, 2026. So it's very strong transition date. But I think he was doing a lot to try to get done as much as he could. He knew that his transition time was happening. He knew that he better get as much finished, done, sorted, so that it wouldn't be all left for his daughter to sort out. And I think he managed to do a lot of it, but I honestly don't see with his energy body. I think there were a lot of loose ends, and there are a lot of other theories and areas where he had ideas that will just basically be with him. And maybe if we're lucky, somebody else will pick up that baton and start investigating in the way that he was investigating. Because he used to ask a lot of difficult questions. If you see some of his interviews and things that he's put in his book, if he felt that it was a lot of BS, he'd call those people out. No, I don't think that's it. It doesn't make sense because of X, Y, and Z. He was definitely a force to be reckoned with. But he has got himself into trouble quite a few times throughout his life. Very naughty, very naughty.
Well, if kind of like having no respect for money is I mean, not that you're not having any respect for money. I think money really is an energy. And when we understand that, people will stop being in this poverty consciousness that most of us live in this hellhole. And it's only in this dimension, actually, that we work with money in the way that we do. And that's what we must realize as well. Our riches does not come from how much we own. We know that. It comes from that which is within. Money right now is a means to get by. Yeah. But money is not abundance. Energy is abundance. And money is a facet of energy. So I like that he actually got that.
Oh, yeah.
I like that he got that. I mean, for me, at the end of the day, I love the rebels of the world. I love the rule breakers. But for me, it's break the rules. I don't do no harm. My purpose is never to harm anyone.
Of course.
But I will definitely break rules when they're freaking stupid. And I'm definitely gonna look at things that I get told I'm not allowed to look at. That sort of thing. So no, money is not the root of all evil. The abuse of money is the root of all evil, or the love. When you have this obsession with money, as most people do. Most people on this planet are in poverty consciousness. That's
Yeah.
why we have these money issues. So it's not the money issues, it's our poverty consciousness in our mind that makes it real or not real. We must always remember that. We are the, part of being sovereign in your own being is realizing you are the master manifester. You are a master creator as a human being. That's why they're after you. You are not evil. Your Kundalini is not evil. Kundalini is energy in your body that God has granted you, and it's the energy of transformation. And yet we seem to think Kundalini is evil because the Freemasons, not the Freemasons, the Luciferians have told us it is.
Yeah.
What a load of nonsense. We've got this whole narrative so wrong. Words are spell casting. Money is not the root of all evil. It's what you as an individual decide to do with your money.
Yeah.
That makes it good or evil. So that's a projection. Sorry, that's a projection. The abuse of it and the obsessive love of it. When you're going to sell your children so that you can have money. Now that's evil. But it's not money itself, but it's you as a person that has these evil desires and uses money as a method to sustain yourself. That's what's evil, not money.
Yeah, it's quite
Anyway, let's do.
quite interesting because he, I found a lot of he did a lot of what would you call the evidence searching, and he did a lot of research, and he spoke to a lot of the architects and people that were archaeologists, and he really tried very hard to understand the theory, that it was the Egyptians that built the pyramids, and that these were the main ones, and he just what I found quite refreshing was that Doniken had gone and looked at the meridians, looked at the energies, and looked where the different continents were. And it was very interesting. He just said that he did not believe that with their tools that they had at that time, that it is even remotely possible that the Egyptian folks would have been able to build the pyramid without some significant technology. He was the one person that put forward that there was no prehistory, and that actually we should be looking at the pyramids and other structures with a totally new eye, which I thought was quite refreshing. Very damning, because a lot of the architects, particularly those in Egypt and other areas, they literally had a go at him. They really did, because they've come up with all sorts of theories. But generally, at the end of the day, he was saying, well, actually, if you look at it, if we were able to do all of this as a people, why can't we do it again now? And he said, the only reason that it could be is that with the true north being aligned perfectly with all, particularly the Great Pyramid and others, we didn't have that technology in those years. So his assumption was, after investigating around the world, it was just, that's what it's going to be. These Egyptologists and others would have decided, well, actually, we can't explain fully who built them, where it was, and how. And that's kind of where he had decided he would settle. So that was quite an interesting one. He had a lot of unusual things that have happened to him. He did lots of things with the Mayan people. He found, like, I can't remember what it was. It was a particular leader, and he looked at the symbology of those particular leaders in the Mayan culture. And, he did a lot of work looking at, what would a rocket look like? What would the flames from the rocket be? Is it a spacecraft? What it is? And, his main book, The Chariots of the Gods, that was a huge one, because he puts all the questions forward. but what he does as well, he gives some idea of what the answers could be, but he doesn't say absolutely this is what it is. He says these are possibilities. So it was one of those, particularly things like advanced medical operations and things like that. These were things that different remains had been found, that these people in the Egyptian areas and those around different temples, they were able to perform all sorts of amazing surgery on the human body. So, he does ask the right questions. I don't think all the answers have come forward yet, and I don't think it ever will. But I think that he was one of the ones that taught everyone around him to ask questions and look at what could be the interpretation. And I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Get people to think and ask questions and, broaden your mind and have an open mind. And life is not just black and white, as you've been told. We've been indoctrinated into this system of religious indoctrination and control, So we controlled through the powers that be. We are controlled through religion. We are controlled through society, through governments, through political systems, through the police force, through the banking systems, everything, right? We are controlled. But as long as we are here on this planet, we need to be here. We have chosen to be here. This is where we experience transcending the lower three chakras. In other words, the lower triad. So again, Reefa, and I'm not gonna answer you again after this, but I'm gonna say everything about Earth is control, right? Government, money is a form of control. Question is, what is your intention with it, and how do you view it? Because money is only energy. And if you can take it away from the money and bring it back to the energy, then you'll understand what I mean. But as long as you're saying control, we are all under the control of money. You might be under the control of money, but I'm not. I use it, yes. I appreciate the money I have. I'll tell you that much. I love spoiling my granddaughter. I love going to see her. I appreciate that I can pay my rent every month. I appreciate that right now money buys my cat's food and my mother food. That's not evil. You see, you've got to get out of this idea that everything is evil. It's not. We've got to look at these things so differently. If we want to get out of this matrix, we've got to stop judging things like that. You are under the control of money. I use it. I don't see myself as under the control of money, although I live in a society that operates with monetary system. Yes, absolutely. So it's the attitude, the energy around it. You see, you're getting it wrong. You're not understanding what I'm saying. You're not understanding what I'm saying. You're arguing on a different level to what I'm speaking to you on. And I'm using this as an example, not to pick on you, by the way, because a lot of people have that opinion. Of course, stop paying your bills and see what is controlling you. Listen to the fear in your statement. Listen to the fear in what you're saying there. Me, I have this attitude. Yes, I have investments every month. I invest in my home. I invest in the food I buy. I invest in the staff I pay. And then when I have those kind of investments paying back, if you understand what I'm saying, I have delicious food. I have fantastic people that work for and around me. I have lots of great joy in sharing the resources that I have. So no, it does not control me because I have this idea that I am provided for. And I know I'm provided for because I feed life and life therefore feeds me.
Yeah.
I feed the living grid, and the living grid therefore feeds me and sustains me. You see, most of us think that money has got to be in a bank and in chunks of silver or gold somewhere. That to me does not actually make, and it's interesting I'm saying this, because as I'm saying it now, I'm trying to understand why I'm even having this conversation. But this guy, the spirit of him, this guy's actually, he's actually guiding me to have this conversation, by the way. So I would say that we are in an alignment with that. We give money so much power. You give money power. You give it the fear. I don't give it the fear. And that's the thing. When you give money the fear, it's going to give you the fear back. Money is energy. When your energy is in alignment with the Holy Spirit or Source God Creator, and you understand things on a much different level, your spirit is enriched. You will never doubt that you can earn money again and that it's coming to you whenever you need it. That's what I'm saying. So when we get out of this fear narrative, this poverty consciousness, most of us carry that. Then we have fun. Then we start enjoying the little things in life, and then watch how money starts flowing, because it really is just a facet of abundance. Money is a facet of abundance. Your real abundance is that which lives within you. Your real abundance is your health. How do you treat yourself? How do you love yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror every day? That's what we have to look at. And just enjoy this body and this life for the experience that it is. Yeah?
It's key. It's key. I think I thoroughly agree with you that money is not the root of all evil. It's the intention around individuals that utilize money in a different way. So I agree with you there. And the good thing, we just asked. And it is good to ask questions. It's good to be able to challenge other individuals that are out there and ask, what about this? What about that? It is possible that during his life, and this will come up in some of the other images, I think there was individuals that were trying to get him under their control. But I think that because he was such a difficult energy within himself that was always bouncing all over the place like popcorn energy, he was of an age where they definitely, at his age, at 90, there's no ways that as a child they would even looked at whether he was Asperger's or whether he had ADHD or ADD. But I think based on the energies that I've seen around and swirling around him, I think he did have a couple of those, because he could change ideas midstream right in the middle of something. If you watch some of his videos, which are very entertaining, and particularly in his later years, he got a little bit more fanciful, said exactly what he wanted to say, wasn't worried about who said what, because he knew that he was getting ready to transition. So he said exactly what he wanted, and he did some great things. He thought, no, bugger that, I'm going to go and do what I want to do. And he would collaborate with all sorts of people, and he's done all sorts of amazing things. He's done things where he's viewed stuff and you think, oh my goodness, and a lot of his books, his old books, like ones in the 60s and the 70s, like The Gods from Outer Space and Return to the Stars, had to be reprinted and reprinted and reprinted because, people started asking the same questions that he did. And, he did study things like The Miracles of the Gods, a hard look at the supernatural. He questioned, well, what about this? What about that? What about channeling? He was one of the ones in the front of the queue, always looking at what was the eighth wonder of the world. Why was the Sphinx there when it was? And he went and did a lot of research and digging up and things. He was looking for evidence of extraterrestrial contact in the Sphinx. He had so many questions. And what I thought was really good, one of his later books, which I looked at the title and I thought, oh, that's going to cause a lot of feathers to be ruffled. He wrote a book called History is Wrong. That's so direct. Like, oh my Lord, really? You did that? And that's one of the ones where he takes a strip of different areas because he just said, no, I'm not listening to this. These are my theories and I'm going to put them in a book, which he did. So it made it a lot easier for everyone that's in the disclosure community to come out and say, you know, I agree with Eric on this, or I have looked at what Eric was saying, his theory, and this is what I think. It's his way of doing things created an entire industry around disclosure.
Exactly.
So I think we can go to our next image.
Reefa, I'm going to repeat one more time. You keep making this about money. It's people using the money to control. Take it away from the money. It's the people using money to control. You've made it about the money. I repeat 3 times. It's not the money. It's the people in control that are using money to control. Get it? There's a big difference. When we wake up to that, we're going to have a much more abundant life. That's why I keep harping on that, because you're stuck with the money. It's not the money. People in control use money to control. Big difference.
Yeah.
Okay, there's another one.
That's another very different one. And I wanted to have a look at, this was the one that I looked at his ancestors, because he came, the different lines, the male lines and the female lines are very different. And he does have a lot of energies coming from him. But where we see those big round golden electrical, very fiery energies around his hands, is he was part of his soul contract was to look at how he could bring education to the masses and how he could push and teach people to start being a little more open and questioning. You know, what if it's this? What if it's that? What if perhaps it was built by different peoples? You know, where did those peoples go? He was actively stirring the pot, actively stirring people, trying to get them to wake up. Also with the energies, with the big ball that I've seen with him with the transitioning, you know, he was using the little last energy that he had to be able to also make a difference. And the ancestors that are behind him were all of those that were helping him to ask the questions that needed to be asked in that time frame. So it was a very definite path. He had a specific soul plan, and he was one of those individuals that literally had to tread water because, you know, he had lots of critics in his life. He had lots of people that tore him to shreds. They had a lot to say about his work. And, you know, the archaeology side of things, he made a lot of really good friends. Carl Sagan was one of his friends, and a couple of the others too. And they all had a similar level of questioning about them. And I wanted to show that he had, as you can see, there's layers and layers and layers of ancestral aspects in there. And in a way, he was trying to ask questions so that the ancestors could speak through him. And then he had the bright white light going throughout him. So that helped him to be pulled out of his body so that he could lay his tired body down, which he did in hospital. He was in the main hospital in Interlaken in Switzerland. And I had been in Interlaken a couple of times, so I can understand where he is and what his love for the world would be, because it's a very kind area in Interlaken. And when you walk there, there is a strange, unseen energy, and there's like a level of peace that's around there. I did enjoy Interlaken a lot when I visited and went into the mountains, and I know that he did a lot of that too. So it's an unusual person, because in the future,
this person is a timeline traveler, actually. That's why he asks so many questions, because it's like he's a gatherer I would put him, if you look at him in the spirit world, I would call him a gatherer. That would be what I would, if we label someone with a job, like a whatever, he would be a gatherer of information. So it's like he travels to different spaces, places. I don't know, do you call it dimensions, planets? I don't know, wherever. There's so much confusion in my head about exactly what the right word to use for that is, or words. But definitely to, what's interstellar? That's the word coming through for me. Interstellar beings.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what this, and for sure, he's definitely encountered his fair share of corruption.
Mm-hmm.
He's played around with it. He's played around with the boys, but they can't really sway him too far. It's almost like he knows how to play the game, but you're not going to get me beyond a certain point. So he's very clever. He knows how to play the game, actually. That's why he got as far as what he did without having to sell his soul. This man did not sell his soul. Not a chance.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But he was definitely, and he had no fear, actually, about, you see, he understood energy, this guy. He really understood energy and how it works, which is what I like, because I resonate with that part about him. He understands energy on a very deep level, or understood it on a very deep level. So he didn't have irrational fears about, oh, you don't talk to that one because they might just put black magic on you. It's like, exactly because they can put black magic on me, do I want to go talk to you? It's like, really? You think you can do black magic on me? I want to see why you think you can. Let's play. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like he didn't bow down. He didn't cower down to anyone or anything. And that's what I like. This picture speaking to me. So he's definitely come with a lot of lifetimes of information, actually. But what I feel almost like in this moment, because I'm connecting with his essence now. It's like he bit off more than he could chew. It's like he came down wanting to do and wanting to share so much more. And than what he did, but it's almost like he had to go at a lot slower pace than what he actually originally can and would have liked to in his human body. So I like him. I like him. He's come. He doesn't take nonsense. Yeah, absolutely. Didn't take life too seriously, actually, which is what I like, because he knows he's here for a time and a purpose, and he absolutely loved his time here. Most of the time he loved here. He knew what he was doing. A wizened, awakened soul. I like it.
And I also like the fact that with his energy body, he did whatever was necessary to keep things going. He worked as a waiter. He worked in a bar. He was a hotel manager for a while as well. He did pretty much everything that he possibly could do. And he was at Davos, which is in Switzerland. It's a big resort, and there's all sorts of major influential financial and thought leaders that attend the Davos event. And there's another one coming up this year. I think it's quite soon. And I actually provide advisory services for a couple of the individuals that are going to Davos, both last year and this year. And he was also in Davos, and he had done a lot of work around what he was saying and how he was saying it. Eventually, I think he got a bit annoyed because he got sick and tired of people asking him the same old question. And he's the only one person that had said, he asked that question, were we from outer space? Were our origins extraterrestrial with the ancient communities? And he turned around in one interview and he said, "Yes, I'm saying yes. Are you clear? Yes, we are. This is what I believe. I have too much information that, and he got into loads of trouble for that again. So, he did lots and lots of research, but he was scorned. A lot of people were not particularly happy. And he comes from very humble beginnings. His parents were just clothing manufacturers in Switzerland, in a place called Schaffhausen. And he was very strict Catholic bringing up. So he used to ask he used to ask the priests, "What is God? What does he look like? Where is he from?" I can just imagine thousands and thousands and thousands of questions. But he did.
Yeah.
He was one of those. He had a paranormal passion. He wanted to know. His thirst for knowledge was huge.
Yeah.
So, he was a big lecturer. He was, he's got a lot that's left behind him, and I'm really just hoping that there might be another book that he might have just finished in enough time. But I think if you look at him when he in his last shame.
There are those who will pass who there's always people that will pass the knowledge on. Who will take over from him, whether it's part of his family lineage or another spirit, who has a similar vibration, who will do it. His knowledge will, that knowledge will get passed down. I think also, there was a lot of excitement. It's almost like coming here with all this information, because it was the first time that Earth was going to be ready for all of this stuff, to start being exposed for the first time. So he really wanted to be here. He wanted to be here in the thick of it, boy. And he is, and he has been. He's made a significant impact, and that's what's important. He definitely has made a significant impact, and he's comfortable with it. He's happy. He's contented with what he's. Yeah, he's contented with what he's. He has just one more here that I think he's contented with
what he did. Yeah, bless him. Yeah, it is. It was a very hard path for him. It wasn't an easy path, and when I last looked at him, he was just all very plain, and his energies was just rising up, and he was walking through a very large, sort of like a smoky area. And I just said to his spirit, just have a rest now. You've done the work that you had to do, and you've tried as hard as you possibly could. And at least you are now released and you can be at peace. So this was the last sort of image that I got of him, with this bright light following him from behind. And I'm sure, for his family, my heartfelt condolences go out to his surviving wife. She'd been with him for 65 years, Elizabeth, and his lovely daughter called Cornelia, and also for the 2 grandchildren. I'm just sending absolute, waves of love to them, because, he was a very special person who had a particular path to walk in this life. And I don't think a lot of it was particularly good, because he found a lot of things very difficult. Yeah. So those energies are his last energies. And I think the one thing that this particular picture shows is that he's leaving a huge literary feast of information, because he was the type of person, when he was writing, it was no holds barred. He would just get in there, say it as it is, and you know what, offend or please. If I offend you, oh well, that's fine. Take from my writings what you like or that resonates with you, and just leave the rest. It's fine. So, he was a force to be reckoned with. Bless him. May he rest in peace.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I don't want to say, we've lost. I mean, the way I see life and death, we lose our bodies. We literally move to another dimension, and we lose. It's like your shell. You've used the shell, but it's such a beautiful bodies are such important things. And I think this is where so many people actually get confused, because you don't realize your body is the direct manifestation of your spirit. It is your spirit in physical form. And if you look at the intelligence wrapped within your body, every cell contains enough information to write 1,000 books of 600 pages each, and you have around 30 trillion. And we're currently using between 4 and 10% of our brain power. So we've got so much untapped potential within the human spirit. And when we start unlocking that, and that's, what I was talking about, the money stuff earlier, is that we've got to stop obsessing about that, because until such time that we learn how to use our own energy, it's like, think about a car, right? You've got all the engine parts, whatever, within you. But until you learn how to wire yourself up, start yourself, your own engine, and drive yourself forward, you're not going to know what I'm talking about. You're always going to let money or power of someone else control you, your boss control you, your job. It's all about money indirectly, isn't it? Health, same thing, right? So until you realize your body is designed to heal itself, until you realize that, you actually probably do not need a doctor for the rest of your life ever again. When you realize that, we take back our power step by step, and we realize money is simply a teeny tiny facet of abundance. And that's what I like about this guy, because he had fun. I'm not saying every moment of his life was peachy. We live on Earth. It's a hellhole. We know Earth is hell. It's controlled by the Lucies. It's hell. We're operating on the Saturn rings of Saturn, 3 lower rings of Saturn, Saturn, right? But when you understand, Saturn is also the wise old teacher, the wise old uncle. So what did you learn about yourself through this experience? And when we gain knowledge and valuable information about ourselves and how we process things, and the very power we have that is within us, that's the true power. That's how we get out of the matrix. You just kind of float out of it then. You just kind of fly out of it. It just happens like that.
It does.
And that's what this guy understood.
Exactly. And he knew that. And, there's a term that was coined, I know when I was first reading his books years and years ago, there was a level of, he used to laugh about it and say that people have got Danikenitis. So, Eric von Daniken, people were reading what he was, proposing, what his various theories were, what a Stargate would be. Did people come from another planet and come and settle here and help us to become a better species? He asked all the difficult questions. And in those years, the 60s and 70s, nobody was asking things like that. It was like, you looked and you thought, oh my God, she's asking these things. How can he be a heathen? How dare he? So he had a lot of people that were against him. They ridiculed him. Even some of the archaeologists had a lot to say about what he was doing. He never claimed to be an archaeologist. He never claimed to be, a religious person. He never claimed to be anything. Only thing he claimed to be was somebody who was primed at asking the right questions.
Totally. And I love that, because, that's really what we're here to do, is to never stop asking questions, never stop questioning the system, never stop questioning, never stop calling for the Epstein files. Because I'll tell you something, just that one little issue is going to unravel all the rot in the world. All the rot in the world will be unraveled with that one releasing of the Epstein files.
Yeah,
we're going to know who's who in the zoo then, but of course that information is not allowed to come out yet. But we will continue to insist and shine light on these situations and these stories. And yes, I agree. Saturn may well have been our sun at one point. Absolutely. It's amazing, actually, when we start looking back at the unwritten history, right? You go back to the Tartaria stuff as well. You go back to way before that, and we start seeing that there's really just so much more, actually, you know? And it's not just one thing. It's coming from every, I mean, we're
Angle.
surrounded by it. We're surrounded by it. And us poor little humans was amazing, actually. Us poor
Yeah,
little
we've
humans.
got to wade our way through the boundless data and energies and different people with different ideas and people that are saying things because they need to or they have to or they're being controlled. There's all sorts that happening. Being alive on the earth plane now in 3D is probably one of the most exciting times to be alive, because we are here when history is in the making, and we will see
I
things
fully
over the
agree.
yeah, we will see things over the next few years that are like, oh my God, I didn't know about that. We're going to see lots of light going into places where we didn't think the light would be, you know. And we've had now, I think, quite a few individuals that have gone across onto the other side and moved from 3D into
Mm.
their new dimension. I think there's going to be quite a few more. I reckon we're going to see quite a lot of individuals leaving the planet and deciding that they've done their job. They've done as much as they could. They will now, you know, be at rest, and they can then go through their life review, look at their soul plan, what do they want to do the next time. But I think he worked pretty hard. He worked really hard, you know, and the fact is, even though he had all the nonsense going on around him, he still managed to bring up a family. He still managed to enjoy his two grandchildren. He still had a wonderful relationship with his long term wife, 65 years married with his wife and his child. His child has had two babies, you know, beautiful children. So he must have been doing something right. He couldn't, you know, there must have been something that he was able to do extremely well in his life. And I think keeping his marriage together, having his child, and doing everything that he did, I think there's a lot more to him that we don't know about, because there's very little on the internet about him as a man and about him as a family man and about him, you know, being a granddad. All of that is, there's nothing at all. When I was researching about him on his Wikipedia page, all it says is he has two grandchildren, doesn't say what they are, has two grandchildren, and has a 65-year-old long-term wife, gives her name and gives the name of his daughter. That's it. Doesn't actually say anything else. So he obviously worked really hard to keep everything private.
Yeah,
And that,
private, absolutely.
yeah, I think he did. Yeah. So good for him. Good for him.
Mama Leona, I'm sure
Lots
filling
of
this
money.
year's tax return in Epstein style, all numbers blacked out for security reasons.
Oh Lord. Yeah. Thank you to all the comments. It's good. It's a bit of a wild card today, but you know, it's because Eric was really the first. Anybody else that came after it started, you know, at the ancient aliens programs and hidden history and all of those. Though all of those concepts were concepts that Eric von Däniken put together and originally and started asking those questions. So no matter who came after that, you know, all the different doctors that have got letters behind their names that are doing research, they were all kick-started by the granddad of the disclosure programs,
Right.
Eric von Däniken. They all asked the same questions, just in a different way. So we've got a lot to be thankful for, because he had such an inquiring mind. And he was one of these types of people that he would ask the question in the beginning of an interview, and then he'd ask it again in the middle of that interview with a different spin on it. And then if he felt like it, he'd ask it again at the end of the interview and see what the answers were going to be. He was just always asking questions, which is a valuable thing to be doing, especially in today's world.
Well, I think that's absolutely, if that's been the lesson for tonight's show, and that's the message he sent for sure, is ask questions. I felt his energy so strong. He's amazing, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, very, very, very clever man.
yeah, very
Very, very
clever.
clever.
He was
Very
very
clever
sort of,
spirit.
tied up with,
So
he thought that there could be a theory of human life, that we had our origins off-world, extraterrestrial. He
I've
was
no
quite,
doubt.
yeah,
I've
he
no
did,
doubt.
yeah. And he had a lot
I
of
have a
evidence.
theory on that. I have a big theory on that as well, which over the years, a lot of information has been given to me as well when I was questioning. I mean, I've been a healer for 30 years. And they just, long before people started talking about cellular healing, I knew that we had to transform the energy of the cells in the body.
Good.
That I was teaching like right in the beginning, like end of the 90s already, beginning of the 2000s. And, to understand how transformation works, how energy and how disease sets in the body. It was all through the year that's been shown to me, like literally step by step, but also our origins, because that for me has been a very important thing. And that's a story for another day.
It
But
is.
it would make sense as to why there's so many of these outer worldly beings fighting over us, actually. And when you look at the astrological wheel, I mean, whether you agree with astrology or not, you have to know that there is astrology of the heavens, right?
Yeah, of
There
course.
is astrology of the heavens, so we can't say that's evil. Just to make sure about that, guys. Um, God has astrology. It's like the planets and the heavenly Milky Ways and what have you. Is like a map of how things play out. And of course, the fallen ones, when they came, they brought that here, and they either were going to show humans or told them you were the chosen ones and how to use it or not use it. But we cannot deny that astrology exists. And what I've been told, it's relating to that. So all of these play, if you look at the 12 signs of the zodiac, right, everything is such an important thing here. And then we become the 13th. So I would say 12 outer space worldly species gave of their DNA to create the human being. And they are all the ones that are in the zodiac. If you look at the zodiac, it'll be coming from those dimensions or those elements. So that's why they play themselves out in our humanity, in our human experiences so well. And they're all fighting over us because they all think they are parents.
Yeah, they do. It's really good.
They all think, well, we've got one strand of DNA in the humans.
Yeah.
I'll fight for them now. And the other one goes, fuck you. That's my DNA that I'm seeing now. And the other one goes, fuck you. That's my DNA. Right?
Yeah.
12. That's why we have 12 strands of DNA. We can philosophize about this. I don't often talk about this stuff publicly because most people look at me and they just stare at me, have no idea what I'm saying. Makes perfect sense to me. Absolutely resonates 100%. That, of course, there were 12 constellations that each gave of their DNA. And in the middle is the 13th or the one, right? Where the human, if you look at the zodiac wheel, the human sits in the center as the recipient of all of the constellations of DNA. So that is why astrology would be very relevant to humans. Although we taught that it's evil, astrology is not evil. Again, money is not evil. Astrology is not evil. It's what you do with it that turns it into good or evil, right? And then you got to look at all the planets that affect the zodiac as well, because that's the roadmap, because that affects the changes in the world. That affect, not the world, the galaxies. Much bigger than you and I can ever begin to imagine. And yeah, you think that all that someone doing a zodiac chart is the be all and the end all. So not true.
It's
so not true. That's the microcosm of a much bigger macrocosm.
It is.
So when we accept that, I accept I'm all 12's zodiac signs in one, babe. And hey, this is the year of that fire horse. And guess who's a fire horse? Taram.
Oh,
Ta-ram,
well done. It's your
ta-ram.
year. Your year.
Yes, yeah, all right. The fire horse. And, it's like if we're looking at the Chinese zodiac as well. And again, guys, when we look at this stuff, it's good to observe it. You do not have to participate in it.
Yeah,
You
of
do
course.
not have to participate in it. But knowledge is power. When you open your mind wide enough to decide to actually educate yourself on a whole lot of other things as well, you will start seeing the world in a very different way.
Absolutely.
Anyway, as within, so without. As above, so below. Absolutely. Better believe it. And that we can prove just by looking at what's around us and just by looking at like what humanity is, right? And nature and humans. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure that out, guys. Just slow down, take a breath and observe. Then you're on the Ankara field. And on the Ankara field, we know these things.
Yeah, you're on a roll today, Shanti. You're on a roll.
I can see I'm on a roll. I like this guy. He just gives, I mean, he's such a cool guy, the one we've just done. Honestly, he's got such easy energy to work with. Actually,
Yeah,
he really
exactly.
does.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
very sweet. He's very cheeky, he's very cheeky, and he'll come up with things that you think, oh, that's a bit close to the mark. You just have a look at some of the stuff that he's done, and he's really, really out there. And a lot of people rubbished him, but I think in time to come, when we start having direct visitations, and when we have direct, straight in your face visitations, when the star people decide, okay, these human people, they're ready now to have absolute contact, first contact, direct
Yeah.
first contact. But then we're going to look, I think we'll look again at that Swiss author Erich von Däniken and all of his ancient alien theories and everything he was trying to educate everyone with. We will look at him differently next time.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, guys. Well, and I think, yeah, we've hit hour and a half tonight.
Oh, good.
So thank you, Bev. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We always have cool conversations here. Nothing is off limits.
Yeah, this is it. So go and do some research on Erich von Däniken, what his theories are, because he's written like white papers. He's got abstract theories out there. He partnered with, I think it was with his friend Carl Sagan. They did some work together. And when you start reading the stuff that he's questioning and how he looks at the evidence and how he looks at like different metals that don't rust and different cogs and wheels and things like that, makes you realize that he was just trying to work out which civilizations from off-world were visiting here, because they're all very, very different. And it's quite refreshing to see that someone has got such a questioning mind.
Absolutely. It's brilliant. It really is. We should all question everything. And I know that that the majority of us on these platforms, we do question. But it's also discernment. And this is where the most important thing right now is that we have our sovereign discernment. In other words, learning how to trust ourselves. So come to the Ankara field, over to the light side,
Exactly.
where we remember how to discern from the heart and not believe and have this overload of information that everyone is giving us all the time. So yeah, I love it. Thank you, Beverli. Anything in closing you want to say?
I'm going to be doing some reviews of certain things because I've been asked to appear on 3 TV shows in America. So they've asked me to go and do some research, and energetic research, and then share that with them. I'm not quite sure what the concept is, but that'll be nice. So watch this space, and I will share that on my own platform when they tell me whatever it is I'm meant to be doing. So that'll be fun. So that's a new thing, the new development for this year. Strange but true. And obviously we're going to be doing a lot more work, Shanti and I, on looking at some of the serial killers, because there's a lot that's coming up with the serial killers.
Yeah.
I will be interested to look at where some of the individuals have got to now in this particular year, 2026, because I think some of them have been in Chucky in prison for a long time.
Wow, yeah, absolutely. But also, I love the fact that we shine light and, on these cold case things, because it really is, it kind of brings a sense of peace. Because, all these unsolved mysteries or hidden bullshit, it there's always that.
Yeah.
But when you shine light on it, it's exposed and it can't be cribbling around in the dark anymore. So that for me is also why we do it. It's really, it's an honoring as well.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of light being shone, and I definitely felt that the sun, I mean, not that we've got much sun in the UK at the moment because it's just snow and very cold. You don't even see, I haven't seen the sun for must be about 2 weeks now. It's just grey up there and snow clouds. But I think that when we do see the sun's energies, I find it's very different. And I think that light is being shone. And I think that Hollywood and other areas around the world, all this wrongdoing that's happening behind the scenes with little people is going to become known. And there's going to be a lot of names coming out in the press very soon of people that you never expected that would be part and parcel of all this horrible, horrible stuff. So, but it has to come out. It has to come out.
Well, I think nothing surprises me anymore. In fact, I'd be surprised of the ones that aren't involved.
Yes.
I'd be surprised if there's one or two that are not involved. That'd be a pleasant surprise, don't you think?
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see who's not rather than who is.
Yeah, exactly.
And they give us enough signs, because they give all those stupid signs, the black eye and, the forked fist or whatever it's called. They give us so many signs. They're all there. You can see where they are. So yeah, it's those that are not, that's going to be the interesting one. But I think over the next month, definitely there's going to be, and the 26th of January comes up as a very strong burst of energetic light energy to make people become aware, but also to allow that evolving cycle to become known, because there's still a lot that's hidden. Lots is hidden still.
There always will be. And Lynn's Curry, yes, about the turtle, about the turtle and the 13 squares carrying the world on its back. Yeah, that's very much the Hindu belief as well. Hinduism is amazing. Hinduism is I think probably one of the most ancient religions on the planet. They've got incredible mythology and understandings of things. Anyway, wonderful. Appreciate you guys. God bless you all. Thank you for watching us. And catch us back tomorrow for 7 South African time. That's 5:30 UK time in the afternoon, not morning. We're not that brave yet. We might still be.
No, not that brave. Although I do when I'm in the evening, I'll do things and post things on X, or I'll post things on TikTok. And there's recently I did a funny dance video, which is really funny, and spliced in a few things and put that up. So if you want to have a good laugh at me being really stupid and dancing, like a granny, go and have a look. That'll bring a smile onto your face, which was the reason why I posted in the first place, is to share the goodwill and enjoy it, because it was very funny. Anyway.
Nice. Okie dokie. We shall see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Enjoy yourselves. And if you can't be good at it.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. What you like?